Jinwoo is back, more powerful than ever after achieving a new profession, necromancer. The young man looks tired, but a phone call from Gina wakes him up. Gina asks, "Do you remember today is my parent-teacher conference?" Jinwoo was really surprised. He showed up at school looking like a star, to the point that Gina had to ask, "What is this? Is he really your brother?" Jinwoo simply smiled innocently. It's not unusual for Jinwoo to dress casually, but this is an important meeting, and he needs to look more formal. He doesn't want his sister to feel embarrassed in front of her friends. As they walk through the school, female students are captivated by Jinwoo's handsome appearance. Seeing this, some students happily ask if he needs to be introduced to anyone, knowing he doesn't have a girlfriend. Jinwoo sighs and pinches his cheeks, scolding them for their gossip. The head teacher praises Gina as an excellent student, both in character and academics. She's an ideal role model for her peers, the teacher says. Hearing this, Jinwoo smiles brightly, proud of his sister. The teacher also mentions that Gina's current test scores are enough to get her into medical school, as she wishes. She encourages the family to avoid putting too much pressure on Gina so she can develop naturally. Later, the teacher asks if Jinwoo, as an older brother, would support Gina if she awakened hunter abilities. Jinwoo promises to never let her do that dangerous job like him. He also assures the teacher of Gina's safety. That afternoon, Jinwoo meets with Song-hwa. At first, she doesn't even recognize him due to his significant transformation. He shows her his photo with Gina. Song-hwa, a friend of Gina's, seems hesitant about going to school. She believes an E-class hunter like her won't earn enough money. Jinwoo explains that while some missions can be lucrative, it's not always guaranteed. He doesn't want her to face criticism for being an E-class hunter like him. Despite his initial hesitation, Jinwoo promises to support her if she decides to become a hunter, but she must listen to his advice.
Hey kiddos, today we have one of my most favorite anime, Satoru Gojo.
Look, I don't usually ask for favors, but if you want more awesome anime recaps, please subscribe, like, and comment. I'm counting on you. You're the reason we keep going. Don't let us down.
The scene shifts to the airport, where Jinwoo is welcoming a powerful S-class hunter back to Korea. The hunter complains about the country and says he doesn't plan to stay long. When the manager of the Hunter Association greets him and inquires about his stay, the hunter bluntly states that he dislikes the place and doesn't intend to stay long. He reveals that his return is due to two individuals connected to the death of Hong Dong. The hunter appears angry and warns, "Don't pretend anymore. If I go meet those two guys, the association won't be able to stop me." Dong Su, responsible for the events in the dungeon, will not face prosecution. If Jinchul wants to stop him, he'll have to try. The hunter declares he will simply fulfill his assigned duties. The scene changes to Old Man Gun and his team. They have just recovered the body of a monster that fell into the sea. It seems the monster is capable of limited flight, posing a potential threat to the country. That evening, Gun contacts Sang-min for help. He is happy to see her again, despite the unpleasant experience they shared last time. Jinwoo also apologizes for making an unreasonable request of her during a previous raid, acknowledging that the other brother, who participated in the raid, didn't mind it at all. Jinwoo had initially expressed interest in observing the training process, much to the surprise of others. It turned out his interest stemmed from a desire to help Song-hwa. This area was a hotbed for gate appearances, so a seasoned hunter, clad in full body armor, arrived to oversee the training. He introduced himself as Elastic Needle, an A-rank hunter, and it was immediately apparent that he specialized in defense. This training session was specifically for younger hunters, and as an A-rank member, Kim Chul was assigned as team leader. He couldn't help but feel a pang of annoyance at being paired with two E-class hunters. It felt like an unnecessary burden, a weight dragging him down. Jinwoo introduced the team lineup, 10 members in total, comprising 1 A-rank, 5 B-rank, and 2 C-rank hunters, including himself and Song. Deep down, Jinwoo hoped that witnessing the harsh realities of the dungeon would discourage Song from pursuing this dangerous path. However, to his surprise, the stronger members of the team only encountered C-rank danger gates, not nearly intimidating enough to deter her. An assistant reminded him to refrain from interfering and allow the new hunters to learn through experience. Entering the gate, the initial atmosphere was relaxed. The other girl, seemingly under the impression that she was being led by a handsome older brother, was quite excited. However, Jinwoo's sense of unease grew as the blue gate abruptly turned red, radiating a malevolent energy. He frantically tried to pull Song back, but it was too late. They were trapped. Panic ensued. Song, terrified, could only watch as the gate vanished, transporting them to another dimension, a desolate landscape of endless white snow. Kim Chun, a veteran hunter, quickly grasped the gravity of the situation, recognizing it as a red gate. Curiosity piqued, he inquired about its nature. Jinwoo explained that red gates were a unique and dangerous type of dungeon. Once inside, they were completely isolated from the outside world, with no means of escape. Their only chance of survival was to defeat the dungeon boss. Moreover, outside assistance would be impossible, and the monsters within would be significantly stronger than those encountered in normal gates. Before they could fully comprehend the situation, an arrow whizzed past, striking and killing one of the C-rank youths. Song, cowering beside Jinwoo, was unharmed. The B-rank girl witnessed the gruesome scene with wide eyes, and even the seasoned team leader was visibly shaken. The ice goblins remained at a distance, their killing intent not yet palpable. 2 months ago, Jinwoo himself would have been a prime target. However, the other hunters, including the team leader, displayed a chilling fear. The ice goblins issued a chilling warning, making a throat-slitting gesture. Song, horrified, asked her senior about the meaning of this gesture. The team leader explained that ice goblins were feared by even the most experienced hunters, their cruelty earning them the moniker White Demons. These creatures were particularly dangerous in cold regions. Kim Chun, recognizing the severity of their situation, stabilized the formation. He emphasized that this was a high-difficulty B-rank gate and survival depended on absolute obedience to a strong leader. However, he couldn't guarantee the safety of everyone, especially the lower-ranked hunters. They faced a grim reality: either succumb to the freezing cold or be hunted down by the merciless ice goblins. Kim Chun assured them that those who followed his lead would have the best chance of survival. The B-class hunters, understanding the gravity of the situation, readily agreed to his command. Jinwoo and Song were also separated from the main group. Kim Chun offered words of comfort, emphasizing that if their team succeeded, everyone would be able to return. At this point, the B-rank girl, impressed by Jinwoo's quick reflexes in deflecting the arrow, requested to join his team. The captain, believing she felt pity for the weaker hunters, readily agreed. The girl approached Jinwoo, revealing that Kim Chun hadn't even noticed the arrow's trajectory. Jinwoo had caught it with his bare hands, a testament to his exceptional strength. The girl's presence would undoubtedly provide some comfort to Gina. After dividing the teams, the higher-ranked hunters opted to explore the main road. Jinwoo, however, chose to venture into the treacherous forest. He was wished luck and urged to stay safe. The Kim Chun's team, following the main road, soon discovered scratches on the tree trunks, a chilling sign that they were entering ice bear territory. Some hunters voiced their concerns, believing that Jinwoo, an E-class hunter, had led his team into a certain death trap. Kim Chun, initially dismissive of Jinwoo's decision, began to feel a pang of unease. Suddenly, the ice bears emerged from the shadows, forcing the team into a defensive position. Kim Chun, overwhelmed by the sheer size of the creatures, was paralyzed with fear. He could only pray for their survival. Kim Chul, however, remained calm. He employed a skill to provoke the bear, forcing it to attack first. The A-rank hunter's shield blocked the initial assault, but it was a close call. The other girl, witnessing Jinwoo's courage and determination, "I don't understand why he brought everyone here. There were hundreds of scratch marks from ice bears all around. If we continued, we would definitely encounter them. They would protest and cry. This was bear territory. We should have stayed near the entrance. Being wary of them here would be much better than being hunted by intelligent ice goblins." Hearing that, Hin was surprised because it turned out he had calculated everything. The current problem wasn't wild animals, but the weather. Jinwoo started to feel cold, so he opened his status board and summoned warm clothes for everyone. The three of us saw this scene and couldn't understand what was going on because even high-ranked hunters could only bring a few items into the dungeon using space magic. But he witnessed this incredible feat. One of the younger hunters asked, What kind of person are you? Jinwoo acted cool, walked over, patted the young man's head, and said, I dragged you into this, so I'll take responsibility for protecting you. The guard, in return, was not allowed to ask anything and only listened to his decisions, but he pretended to obey. Jinwoo also reminded the other two not to ask or demand anything from him. At this time, the bears had already smelled the intruders. While the other three were scared to death, Jinwoo remained calm. He activated his skills, overcoming adversity and dog killer, to increase his stats. At this moment, Byun-ho was extremely worried. Even though he was an S-rank hunter, he couldn't do anything. He thought that at this moment, the only way was to bet on Kim Chun. Sang-min said that there were people among them who weren't in their guild. Jin asked what rank he was. He said he was E-rank, but most likely he was a second awakener. This news was not accurate, but the fact that he was very strong was completely true. While nervous, Jin Chun brought Dong Su. The situation worsened when they saw the big boss of the White Tigers. This guy also teased Byun-ho with a few sentences. Byun-ho didn't like the person in front of him and asked, Why are you in my area? Hearing that, Dong Su asked on the contrary, Why can Jinwoo come but I can't? He's the S-rank hunter who has a lot of information, but the dark side is coming to find him. He immediately thought of the Red Gate and feared that Jinwoo might have died in there. Jin Chun knew that the other brother inside looked surprised and thought that his fate was quite lucky because the Red Gate did not have to encounter the wilderness. Inside, the white bears were overwhelmed by the power of Jinwoo's reincarnation. Witnessing this scene, the other three couldn't understand why an E-rank hunter could be so powerful with his bare hands. Hunting bears helped the young man level up, and the Red Gate would indeed give more experience points later. Everyone sat down to light a fire and grill bear meat to ease their hunger. Remembering Jinwoo, they realized he was a strange but different kind of hunter. Seeing the senior hunter struggle, he had chosen to confront the most challenging situation head-on. He went to the lair of the bears to challenge the young man who was willing to return the Dark Army. This would be the first mission for them. Both sides rushed into a bloody battle. The bears had the home field advantage and extraordinary strength. However, Jinwoo's army possessed the skills to fight. Each of Jinwoo's undead soldiers fought fiercely, and with the support of his magicians, things were going smoothly. However, recovering the ghost soldiers after each battle consumed a significant amount of mana. The situation took a drastic turn when the leader bear entered the fray. Witnessing his army being decimated, the enraged bear unleashed a devastating roar, sweeping aside everything in its path. Jinwoo's magic attacks proved ineffective against this powerful area of effect skill, draining his mana reserves to 0. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Jinwoo commanded Igris, his most powerful undead general, to engage the bear. Igris advanced slowly, exuding an aura of raw power that intimidated the colossal beast. The bear charged, but Igris effortlessly dodged the attack, countering with a swift strike that severed one of the bear's arms. Jinwoo watched in awe. Igris, indeed, was a formidable warrior. 2 hours, he muttered to himself. Even his most powerful creation was still a considerable distance from reaching his own level of strength. He praised Igris for his impressive performance and then focused his attention back on the battlefield. Meanwhile, back at the Hunters Association, Kim Chun was facing a desperate situation. His team was being relentlessly hunted by the Ice Goblin army, and he was powerless to stop them. Fear consumed him as he realized he might not survive this ordeal. He was utterly terrified and, in a moment of panic, turned and fled, leaving his team to fend for themselves. This cowardly act, however, did not escape the notice of the Demon King observing from the shadows. The bear that Jinwoo had slain was quite large, making the young man satisfied. At least this trip wasn't a complete failure. He estimated that roughly 3 hours had passed since the gate turned red, indicating that a significant amount of time had elapsed within the dungeon. The environment within the Red Gate was harsh. Hong Dong-su, initially assuming Jinwoo had perished, was about to depart when he realized the true reason for his presence. He wasn't from the White Tiger Association, and this revelation caused a stir. Dong-su, a master of subtle intimidation, sensed something off about the other man. He approached him closely, his aura radiating a palpable threat. The other man, sensing the danger, tried to deflect Dong-su's attention, claiming he had merely brought his friends to observe the C-class gate. Dong-su, however, saw through the deception. He grabbed the man by the neck, his grip firm. "You sense something?" Dong Su growled. The man, terrified, confessed that he had been drawn to the Red Gate by a premonition. Yunho, witnessing the confrontation, intervened, ordering Dong Su to release the man. "Take your dog hands off him," he warned, his voice laced with authority. Dong Su, unfazed, retorted, "Hiding in this tiny country and daring to order me around?" The tension escalated rapidly as both men exuded powerful auras, alarming Jin Chul. He feared this confrontation could escalate into a full-blown conflict, potentially disrupting the delicate balance of power. This incident also served as a convenient excuse for Dong Su to collide with Yunho. Kim Chun had recently returned from the dungeon, looking haggard and disheveled. He had been shivering from the cold and struggling to survive on meager rations. He wondered how long he could endure the harsh conditions. Kim Chun noticed the bodies of the bears slain by Jinwoo, a chilling reminder of the young hunter's strength. He couldn't believe he had encountered the ice bears. It dawned on him that Jinwoo, with his overwhelming power, had likely eradicated them all. The thought that an E-rank hunter had single-handedly decimated a horde of ice bears was almost unbearable. He couldn't help but feel a pang of humiliation. Meanwhile, Dong Su, after receiving a message from an unknown source, abruptly left the scene. Sang Min, who understood Jinwoo's abilities better than anyone, was certain he would find a way to survive. Inside the dungeon, a group of hunters, including the ones who had accompanied Jinwoo, were enjoying a feast, unaware of the hardships faced by others. They had found a hidden cache of supplies, including food and warm clothing. Kim Chun, witnessing their carefree demeanor, felt a surge of anger. He had risked his life, facing unimaginable hardships, while these individuals feasted in comfort. He couldn't accept that he, the experienced hunter, had led his team to near death, while others, seemingly weaker, had survived. He began to suspect that they had deliberately withheld information about their resources. Kim Chun suspected from the beginning that Jinwoo had a plan. He believed Jinwoo had intentionally chosen to stay in this area. Kim Chun imagined Jinwoo demanding to know who was the mastermind behind the attacks, threatening to behead everyone if they didn't comply. However, things did not go as expected. Jinwoo returned, but instead of seeking information, he grabbed Kim Chun, silencing him to prevent further information from being revealed. He scolded Kim Chun, calling him stupid for bringing dangerous guests into the area. Jinwoo, sensing the presence of hidden observers, ordered the tribe to dissolve their invisibility. Suddenly, a whole army of ice elves appeared, their eyes glowing menacingly. Most noteworthy was the presence of an insect among the elves. Upon closer inspection, it was discovered that a pearl was embedded within its carapace. The two sides exchanged a few words, a sight that surprised the Demon King. This was the first time he had encountered another entity that could understand his language. Hearing this, Jinwoo was a bit surprised. He was asked by the Ice Elf leader if he could speak the language of monsters. He realized that this was due to the unique effects of the Red Gate, which seemed to amplify certain abilities. The Ice Elf leader, intrigued, began to speak, recounting how his scouts had reported the presence of an exceptionally strong human within their territory. He explained that he had wished to engage this formidable opponent in combat. However, before the leader could finish his sentence, Jinwoo intervened. The Ice Elf leader, caught off guard, was swiftly dispatched. The Demon King, observing this, was impressed. He had never encountered a human who could so easily dispatch one of his most powerful warriors. The Demon King, intrigued, decided to engage Jinwoo in conversation. He asked, "You are not human, are you?" Jinwoo, however, remained silent, his gaze unwavering. He sensed that the Demon King was trying to gauge his true nature. The Demon King continued, "My scouts hear voices, whispers urging them to kill humans. But when I stand before you, I hear nothing. This proves that you are different." Jinwoo remained silent, his expression unreadable. He understood that the Ice Elves were being manipulated by an unseen force, likely a system designed to pit humans and monsters against each other. The Demon King, sensing Jinwoo's reluctance to engage in idle conversation, proposed a deal. "Why do you cause trouble for humans for no reason? This senseless conflict serves no purpose." Jinwoo, however, did not rush to agree. He asked, "What is it that you truly desire? Why do you seek to disrupt the natural order?" The Demon King, surprised by Jinwoo's insightful question, hesitated. He had never considered the underlying reasons for his actions. Jinwoo, sensing the Demon King's uncertainty, subtly signaled his army to prepare for battle. The remaining Ice Elves, sensing the shift in the balance of power, began to feel uneasy. Jinwoo, with a chilling smile, declared, Let us see which side prevails. The battle commenced, a chaotic and brutal clash between Jinwoo's army and the remaining Ice Elves. The initial advantage lay with Jinwoo, but the Ice Elves fought with desperate ferocity. Some of the remaining humans, witnessing the carnage, attempted to flee, but Ice Elves swiftly dispatched them with a single arrow. But suddenly Jinwoo blocked it and killed them. The young man felt that underestimating his opponent was a mistake. Although immortal, the Dark Army had suffered significant losses. Considering the current situation, he feared they wouldn't be able to hold out for long, especially against a boss much stronger than him. Even if he joined forces with Aegis, victory was far from guaranteed. "We need stronger resources," he declared. Demon King, introducing himself as Baruka, charged into the fray. He encountered some difficulty with the enemy's weapon retrieval skill, but in close-quarters combat, he proved to be a formidable opponent. However, he knew he couldn't win this fight alone. Just as he realized this, he was struck by a powerful fireball from the mage team. The explosion knocked him back. Kim Chun, awakened by the commotion, was furious at being subjected to such a violent attack. He rushed into the fray to seek revenge. Baruka found this scene quite amusing but failed to realize that this was part of Jinwoo's plan. He had called for reinforcements to arrive, intending to overwhelm the enemy. Baruka met a new warrior, a powerful A-rank hunter named Iron. Iron, eager to prove himself, immediately provoked the enemy, drawing their attention. The enemy, an assassin, was no match for Iron's brute strength. Song Yi, observing the battle from afar, asked her sister if all hunter battles were this chaotic. Her sister replied, "If I had seen this before, I probably wouldn't have dared to become a hunter." Baruka, seeing the carnage, became bored and instructed Jinwoo and Aegis to join the fray. They complied, their combined assault overwhelming the enemy. Baruka had underestimated his opponent. Jinwoo, who had been biding his time, suddenly unleashed a flurry of attacks, catching Baruka off guard. He managed to dodge the vital blow, but acknowledged his opponent's strength. He noticed that his soldiers were struggling. To his surprise, Jinwoo discarded his weapon, a move that initially seemed foolish. However, it was part of Jinwoo's strategy to create an opening. With Jinwoo's weapon out of the way, Jinwoo used his ability to teleport and swiftly closed the distance. The mage team capitalized on this opportunity, unleashing a devastating area of effect spell that cornered the enemy. Baruka, realizing the tide had turned, shouted, "The battle is over." Iron, following Jinwoo's orders, delivered the finishing blow to the enemy leader. Despite the intensity of the battle, Iron seemed more concerned with celebrating his victory. Jinwoo, however, remained calm. He returned to his teammates, announcing that the battle was over and that the gate would automatically open soon. The other three hunters, who had been anxiously awaiting their rescue, were overjoyed. Outside the gate, Byunho and the others were still waiting. They assumed the delay was due to logistical issues, unaware of the fierce battle that had just concluded within the dungeon. Jinwoo and Song Wai were the last to emerge from the dungeon, much to Sang Min's relief. The gate then closed, leaving President Byunho visibly shocked. When he inquired about the whereabouts of the other hunters, Hin could only bow his head, unable to explain what had happened inside. Seeing that only the low-ranking hunters had returned, Jinwoo urged Song Yi to go home. However, the guild leader on Bok's side, the White Tiger, stopped them. "I'm tired," he declared, pushing Byunho's hand away. "If you need to know anything, ask the other two." Byunho, witnessing this arrogant display, was infuriated. This young man, despite his power, dared to look down on him. Byunho switched to a fighting stance, threatening Jinwoo. Jinwoo, witnessing this, turned and glared at the White Tiger. "I saved 2 lives, he retorted. "If you have any complaints, you should be thanking me." Byunho, initially intimidated by the White Tiger's arrogance, realized that Jinwoo was right. He apologized to Jinwoo and bowed his head in submission. When Jinwoo and Song Wai finally emerged, Song Wai, still a bit shy, simply called him by his name, hoping to avoid further questioning. Jinwoo, witnessing the awkward exchange, felt a sense of helplessness. He had experienced horrifying scenes within the dungeon, yet these higher-ups were more concerned with social etiquette. On the way back, Jinwoo took out the reward for the battle, which included a rare weapon previously coveted by Baruka, a renowned weaponsmith. Jinwoo, upon seeing the Baruka's body, was initially overjoyed. However, he soon realized that the Baruka was cursed. He had attempted to arise Baruka 3 times, but each attempt had failed. No wonder he was so upset earlier. The next day, Jinho came to visit and was surprised to see his brother with a new outfit. He also noticed Song Wai accompanying him, which caused him some confusion. Looking at their close interaction, Jinho suspected that something romantic might be brewing between them. He reminded Jinwoo that she was still a minor, but Jinwoo simply ignored him. Entering the dungeon, Jinho shouted in surprise the first time he saw the Dark Army at work. He was so frightened, he blurted out, "Let's see what kind of people these are. They're so strong." He's complaining. "This is one of my skills," Jinwoo said. "Just get used to it gradually. There's still a lot to explain." "So, okay, Jinho, you didn't say anything." After beating him, he let his subordinates go and exploited him. He even took Jinho's job, which made him very sad. Jinho shouted, hoping his older brother would give him this easy job. "But to let the Dark Army do that, I feel it's useless." Basically, Jinwoo just want to speed up the work. The scene changes to a sinking ship, where Strong, Jinwoo's father, the incredibly skilled hunter who was trapped in the gate for years, has returned. He's back, but only in America, and he doesn't understand English. This scared the other hunters. That night, Jinwoo and his brother went drinking. Jinho was incredibly grateful because his older brother helped him talk to his dad. His next goal was to pass the Hunters Association theory test. The president asked about Jinwoo, and he said he'd be very busy and couldn't be contacted because he was drunk. His younger brother also shared his feelings. He was worried that his senior would think he was annoying and useless after achieving his goal. He didn't want to bother him anymore. He also mentioned that he had an older brother who was 10 years older, and even though they were family, he felt hated by him. Compared to that guy, Jinwoo even stood up to protect and help him in every way. Sometimes he thought it would be amazing if Jinwoo was his real brother. Jinwoo didn't hate Jinho at all, so he poured a glass of wine for him. Hearing that, Jinho shouted, "I'm so touched. I don't know how to describe it." They sat down to eat and drink happily. At this time, they couldn't confirm the other man's identity, so they locked him up according to his statement. He said he had been trapped in the gate for 10 years, but for some reason, that place connected to another gate. This incident was unheard of in America. They feared he was a monster, so they called another S-rank hunter to question him and get his statement. Dong-soo was Korean, so it would be easier to communicate with him. One guard asked the man in front of him what his name was, and it was a bit difficult to pronounce. He replied, "Sung Il Hwan," and then returned to the men's room. It was just dawn, and it was time to say goodbye. With a sisterly concern, Jinwoo said he would be gone for about a week, reminding Jaina to be careful at home. She thought her brother was working too hard and that he should go on a trip to relax, perhaps with a friend. This thought made the young man feel a bit helpless. The truth is, he went to the burning castle to conquer the fight. Jinwoo, who was only level 20, now had a force more than 3 times his original strength. In theory, this place was no longer considered dangerous. He entered the door on the first floor, and the system immediately assigned him a task: to kill demons, as the castle was filled with them. The condition to complete the task was to collect 10,000 souls from them. Damn it, he thought. My target this time is somewhere else. Consider this just the prelude. Whether it's 10,000 or 100,000 souls, he knew he would definitely succeed. The next day, Jinho received the papers from the association. He should also speak with the old man who wants to lead the association and prevent his father's brother from interfering. Jinho was pushing for a youth plan, claiming that his brother's plan to bring in an outsider as president was too risky. Before he could explain further, his father immediately agreed. Having heard of Jinwoo's impressive achievements, Jinwoo then swiftly eliminated the entire attack army of demons. The hunter who supervised the killing of prisoners involved in the 2 dangerous cases above and still survived was not just lucky. He was a person of true power. Just the other day, his father received information from the White Tiger Association about an incident at the C-Class gate. The red shift caused many high-level hunters to vanish, and Jinwoo was one of the few survivors. This further solidified his father's belief in Jinwoo's strength. Thanks to Jinwoo, Jinho was able to obtain the guild leader's license, allowing him to build close friendships with individuals of such high caliber. So, his father agreed to hand over the management of the new guild to Jinho, relying on him instead of his eldest son as before. However, there must be conditions related to countering the White Tiger Association, as they were clearly interested in gaining influence of Jinwoo. If the son had a close relationship with Jinwoo, it would be much easier. Jinho also promised to bring Jinwoo back to the guild, which pleased the old man greatly. Returning to Jinwoo's location, he had already destroyed many black demons. Each one here was forbidden to use soul-summoning magic, otherwise, they would have had a significant advantage with an additional army of demons. Then came the reward. The only thing received was permission to enter the upper floors. In front of the entrance, a pillar of light appeared, signifying that the dungeon was vast, as if an entire city was contained within a single building. The distance was significant, so Jinwoo summoned his bear for convenience. The leader, as expected, responded to his command, and charged through the enemies without hesitation, like a tank plowing through a crowd of demons. He was very pleased and named the bear Tank. The scene shifted to the headquarters of the top hunter guild. Heian was still pondering the recent encounter with the monstrous creature. They should have announced the discovery to everyone, but her guild leader instructed her to maintain secrecy. The Hunter Association also requested confidentiality, fearing that widespread knowledge could cause panic and chaos, especially in these sensitive times. Fortunately, these horror monsters could not harm humans outside the dungeon, making this the perfect opportunity to recruit strong guild members before the inevitable confrontation. Jinwoo realized this was not an S-rank dungeon. It was relatively easy. The demons here were mostly B-rank, numerous, but lacking in intelligence. There was nothing to be overly concerned about. He had passed several levels and brought ample food and water, allowing him to live comfortably within the dungeon. He estimated that this place likely had 100 levels. The question was, how strong will I be by the time I reach the top? The 10,000 Demon Soul collection goal was still ongoing. The most pressing concern, however, was food. He had planned for a week-long stay, but at this rate, it might take half a month. The most important thing was to keep his promise to his sister. Jinwoo focused on accelerating his progress. After completing the 10,000 Soul collection mission, he clashed with the boss. Immediately, he summoned the Dark Army. The red text warned Jinwoo that this power could also pose a danger to him in the outside world. Meanwhile, the White Tiger Association was trying to recruit him. How on earth did they lose track of him for a whole week? Heian and Sang-min, the only ones aware of his strength, were assigned this mission. After inquiring about Jaina, he learned that his brother was traveling. The confusing part was that according to their investigation, Jinwoo had not traveled abroad or participated in any raids. The scene shifts to the dungeon. He commanded the ghost soldiers to engage the boss while he focused on other targets. I just led the army into battle, swiftly defeating numerous enemies. Recently, with each level up, Jinwoo had been increasing his intelligence points, allowing him to summon more demon soldiers and enhance their energy. This was a significant improvement compared to his time in the Red Gate, as it alleviated his concerns about over-consuming resources and hindering his combat effectiveness. He wondered how long the boss would remain stationary. In a blink of an eye, the boss had sneaked behind him for an attack. It was truly a display of incredible speed, considering its massive size. Jinwoo dodged, sending his opponent flying with a powerful counterattack. This was a testament to his growing strength. The Red Demon was incredibly tough, comparable to Zeus. Earlier, when confronted, he had relied on iron to provide a shield to minimize damage. Now, Jinwoo was able to withstand hundreds of powerful hits from his opponent directly. The dungeon boss's unpredictable movements were the real challenge for Jinwoo. He attempted a finishing blow, but ended up taking damage instead. Luckily, Jinwoo dodged the attack and realized that outmaneuvering the creature was crucial. To defeat it, he needed to restrict the boss's erratic movements. Jinwoo began to circle the boss, searching for the perfect opportunity. The boss, enraged by Jinwoo's evasive tactics, fell into a trap of its own making. Taking advantage of the smoke and dust created by the chaos, Jinwoo delivered a swift and decisive finishing blow. Returning to the area where the conflict had erupted, he encountered Wilderness Sung Il Huan, a man known for his monstrous behavior. Sung Il Huan regarded Dong Su disdain, usually refraining from idle chatter. However, this time, his anger was evident. Sung Il Huan began to question humanity's knowledge of the gates and the monsters within. He claimed that what they were facing was merely the tip of the iceberg. Something much more terrifying lies beneath the surface, he warned. A power that could unleash unimaginable disaster. Dong Su, bewildered, struggled to comprehend Sung Il Huan's dire warnings. His primary goal was to prevent this impending disaster. How many hunters are there in this world? Dong Su inquired. Sung Il Huan dismissed the number, stating that quantity was irrelevant. You are strong, but not old enough to understand, he explained. Dong Su then glanced at a document containing names and asked, Do you remember who your son is? Of course. Sung Il Huan remembered. Jinwoo was named after him. Hearing his son's name, Hong Dong Su erupted in a murderous aura. Let me meet that bastard's father immediately, he roared, declaring Jinwoo dead. He demanded to know if there was anything else to deny. The confrontation erupted, and Dong Su was swiftly subdued, beaten like a dog by the seasoned hunter, Sung Il Huan. Hong Dong Su lay unconscious on the ground, his fighting ability completely neutralized. In dungeon, Jinwoo had successfully completed the next set of challenges, his strength now so formidable that other powerful monsters were terrified. However, Jinwoo was forced to halt his progress due to a critical shortage of food. Currently, he was on the 75th floor, with 25 more floors to conquer. It was tiring, but the rewards were immensely valuable. The monsters dropped rare equipment that significantly increased his stats. According to the information he had gathered, he was still missing a crucial component to activate the full effect of this equipment. He also acquired several other items that significantly enhanced his mage's abilities. He had obtained the key, but it did not reveal Jinwoo's target information. He only possessed a fragment of the world tree and 2 other rare items, which he hoped would be sufficient to cure his mother, and walked out of the gate with a sad face. Because there's still one more thing I need to make the holy water of life, the purified blood of the Demon King. To get it, I have to be very careful. I've been fighting monsters in the Demon Castle, so I'm stronger now. But I'm still just an E-rank hunter, which makes it hard to get good things in events. The big raid forced Jinwoo to join the youth association. He told himself to stop worrying because he'd be found out anyway. So, he decided to renew his hunter papers tomorrow. The next day, Jinwoo was at the headquarters to test his rank. Kitchell was looking for people to air. After seeing Jinwoo, he quickly called Yunho. Jinwoo didn't know about this when he was invited, so he went in anyway. He met some new people who looked scared and didn't know who he was. It felt a bit strange. The person next to him said that being stronger than E-rank was good enough to survive, which made him laugh. After being called, Jinwoo said his name and how the test would work. He just had to put his hand on the black ball, and the computer would automatically detect. The other girl was new and had never seen any errors before, so she kept asking Jinwoo to do it again, but each time it showed red. She had to ask someone else for help. Mr. G. Mr. G was experienced. As soon as he saw the red text, he knew Jinwoo was a very strong S-rank hunter in Korea. It wasn't the device's fault. Jinwoo's magic power was too strong for it to measure. Outside the association, Choi Jong-in and Jin Chul were talking about the feathered monster. The research department was going to study it, so they would have results soon. They were trying to figure out the young man he saw recently based on the monster's cells and how much magic power was left. A lot of things happened, especially the red gate appearing on the white tiger side. They let outsiders join the raid, and that person ended up defeating the dungeon boss. Jin Chun asked if he knew which monster it was. Of course he knew, but he didn't want to say. He just said he was there that day but had to leave early, so he didn't know exactly what happened. Later, he didn't care because the waiting room seemed very busy. He wanted to go there and see what was happening. Jin Chun thought that maybe some people had just woken up. High-ranking hunters shouldn't celebrate too much here, but inside, after hearing that Jinwoo couldn't be measured, many people looked shocked. Until now, there had only been 9 instances of this kind of chaos, and Jinwoo is the one who caused it. The headmaster also tried to encourage Jinwoo to prepare. Seeing that Jinwoo was very happy, the headmaster knew that Sang-min's assessment was correct. At this time, the president of the Gu Hunters Association stepped in, demanding everyone's attention. He's known as the supreme weapon, the peak of fire magic. Jong and Choi looked on. Jinwoo, sensing the terrifying power radiating from Jinwoo, immediately understood the cause of the commotion. He couldn't miss this opportunity, so he introduced himself and invited Jinwoo to speak with him. Jinwoo seemed uninterested, saying he was busy. This caused a stir among everyone. The Youth Association president thought he hadn't introduced himself yet, so Jinwoo wouldn't know. He asked Jin Chun if he had, and Jin Chun confirmed it. Jong and Choi seemed to be in disbelief about his own power. When I turned around, Jinwoo had vanished without a trace. It's truly the peak, Biyun exclaimed, gasping. Running over, he explained the situation to his friend. The White Tiger headquarters wasn't close, but he still ran over in a panic. It was confirmed. Jinwoo was an important figure, the one who defeated the monster at the Red Gate. He received news that the young man had left. Disappointed, he immediately met Dong-in. He was truly saving this old man. He didn't want to find out about Jinwoo's business that night, but he had to go to the hospital to visit his mother. Seeing her like that, he felt sad and hoped his mother would wait a little longer. There would soon be a cure for his mother's illness. When he went out, he saw Jin Chun. Jin Chun called him over and showed him how poor his judgment of people was. The monitoring room's duty is to observe hunters and discipline them if needed. So, Jinwoo asked if he was under surveillance. Jin Chun said it wasn't a crime, so he shouldn't worry. His board is the only agency that can control hunters. However, for an S-rank like Jinwoo, it's completely useless. Jin Chun came today to ask Jinwoo to meet someone. He slowly stepped forward. The president of the Gun Association was extraordinary. He first congratulated the talented young man on being identified as an S-class. Although the news wasn't official, Jinwoo would need to be reassessed. But mostly, nothing changes. He can rest assured. The extra appraisal step is to give the association a chance to approach this talent before they join another association. There are many strong people who don't want to join other factions. I'm one of the few who are at the top of the A-list but still join the old man's association. Straight to the point, Gun-hee want to invite Jin Woo to be his successor. If possible, I will prepare an important position for him. If asked about the reason for this, then you'll know the supporters. This country isn't governed by the government, but by hunters who protect people from monsters. Standing at the center are 5 major guilds. Luckily, these guilds are currently maintaining balance. But if Jinwoo joins any guild, that balance will be broken. His hunter association is the 6th force, holding back the others. They can see how important he is. What kind of person is he? So, it's best for him to join the association to both suppress the other 5 guilds and maintain the balance. The chairman believes that Jinwoo will eventually give in. This seat for Jinwoo is also a sure promise for promotion. Apart from the government and the media, no other entity has enough power to reach Chairman Gun. Not to mention, in terms of strength, he's incredibly terrifying. If he fights him one-on-one, the risk of losing is very high. He's also the first S-rank hunter in the country. I don't understand how he's over 80 years old but still has those muscles. He thinks his life will change dramatically if he accepts this offer. Jinwoo apologized and then left. That made him think that it was ultimately about money. But that wasn't the case. He wanted to be a dungeon fighter. His gaze surprised the old man because there wasn't a single word that was a lie. He touched his heart, wondering how many years it had been since he felt this way. He secretly wished he were 10 years younger, so he could accompany Jinwoo on this journey. But that was impossible, so he had to give up. Jinwoo had to ask permission to go home because his sister was alone. Looking at his departing figure, Mr. Gun-hee remembered the disappointment of aging. Even an S-rank recovery hunter can't resist it, but right now, he feels the passion of youth surging within him. He wants to cancel all his upcoming meetings because he doesn't want anyone to disturb this feeling. This feeling intensified when the section chief went out for a drink with Jin Chul. He immediately agreed, Jinwoo secretly thinking that the association could only handle D or E-rank dungeons. He needed to level up quickly to save his mother. This was also why he refused the invitation. He couldn't stay in one place while he was still developing his ability to explore the land. America at that time was so wild. After being beaten by Jinwoo's father, he had woken up. The deputy director also came in to ask a few questions, of course, related to the man who attacked Dong-soo. He wanted to know if that guy was a monster or not. Hong Dong-soo confirmed that it was real. Currently, the management department is trying to track down that monster man, but it's uncertain that they can't do anything to the person who attacked Dong-soo. After thinking what has happened to him, he considered this a disgrace. Jinwoo's father had previously threatened him, warning him not to touch his family. He knew death wouldn't deter an S-rank hunter. Being threatened like this was a disgrace. He wanted revenge in the future, when he had the necessary means. Jinwoo was now looking to buy more high-end equipment, as the hunter profession was highly developed. Weapons were being auctioned online, but the prices were exorbitant. This gave young hunters a headache. They needed to prepare for the Demon Castle, but there weren't many good items in stores. The best option was to sell some rare items he had acquired. The problem was that people would be suspicious of an E-ranker possessing such items. He needed to create a believable story, someone who found them at a rank gate. This way, there would be no fear of being traced back. Coincidentally, there was information on the internet recruiting people to explore an A-class dungeon. How convenient. The next morning, the president looked at the young man's photo again. The dungeon incident last year was shocking. Now, Jinwoo had changed so much, no longer as immature as before. Jin Shun added details about Jinwoo's family situation. His mother was seriously ill and unconscious, and his younger sister needed to attend school. Jinwoo's income was crucial for their survival. How did they get news that this idiot had joined the Hunter's Raid? It was for a new mining position in a virtual environment, but at the same time, he was accepted to work as an E-ranker. In large-scale raids, work needed to be divided clearly. The attacking team only destroyed monsters, while others, those less capable of fighting, would work inside. Zhang and Choi would directly enter the battle. He told everyone to step back so he could be gentle and preserve the monster's body for maximum value. He reminded the girl with a good nose to be careful of the smell, or she might get sick or die. Later, they also came out, surprising Jinwoo a bit. Even though he knew the opponent was strong, Breaking through an A-class gate without casualties was truly amazing. He also noticed the girl who was the 9th S-ranker in this country. The aura she exuded was terrifying. He wondered how many people in the world were like that, but then she felt a strong presence and turned to look for them, but couldn't find them. It felt like President Gun Hai was visiting, but that sensation quickly vanished. The excavation team began work. Jinwoo wanted to test the boss at the gate. How strong was an A-class boss? When he was bumped into by someone who knew he was an ear-anchor, he wanted to be aggressive. But looking into the young man's eyes, he was too timid to say anything more. After witnessing how he worked, he was shocked. What was with this earrank? Why was he acting like he's possessed by Sukuna? It was break time, but Jinwoo pretended to be working extra hours. In reality, he was going to see the boss. He was excited and wanted to use this hour to have some fun. Later, when he saw the boss's room, he really wanted to take it down, but he couldn't. He saw that the gate was about to close, so he just wanted to lightly slash it. Before he could do anything, Heian Cha appeared and asked what the young man was doing. He was quite shocked because he didn't even feel her presence. Jinwoo sighed, wondering what strange thought had popped into her head. He pretended to be innocent here, but hung there's nothing wrong with that. He said, "This is the boss's room. Stay away. This matters to a lot of people. This girl is unusual. I just saw that the knife in Jin Yu's hand was gone. The ghost apologized, so I let him go. If he angered the boss now, the whole mining team would be in trouble." He walked past her, and she suddenly called him back. She ran over to smell him, which scared him. She realized this young man didn't smell bad at all, but actually smelled good. She was too embarrassed to say anything. She looked at his worker ID and saw it was Sung Jinwoo, an earrank hunter. She just reminded him to be careful on the road and let him go. She wondered if his low level meant he had no sense. She didn't report the incident to the team. He got lost and met Chahayan. Everyone was surprised because they only dared to look at her from afar. She usually doesn't rest. She's always on patrol, like just now, to keep them safe. Many people admire her. She's young but very cautious. Also, she really hates the smell of other hunters. Because of how she's built, she always needs a scented handkerchief to cover her nose. Hearing that, Jinwoo remembered the scene where she sniffed him. He thought he smelled different from others because he was chosen by the system. Just like the Demon King said at the Red Gate that he wasn't human. By the afternoon, the work was finished, and Jinwoo was paid. The uncle praised him for being very strong. Their team worked faster than the collection team, so the uncle even offered Jinwoo a full-time job with good pay. But Jinwoo refused. The uncle didn't push him, but asked him to work one extra day because there would be a raid on A-rank and C-rank gates tomorrow. Jinwoo realized something and asked. It turned out the second punishment team would be on the field. This shows the power of the Hunter Guild. No one else in the country can send the second team to punish an A-class gate. It proves this place has a lot of talented people. In the next scene, Chahayan suddenly asked someone to investigate the person on the other end of the line. He said Representative Choi also asked him to do the same, but only for a short time. This information wasn't public, so she was even more surprised. This was the first time an earrank hunter had been hidden by the association. Lying on her bed, she gathered information about Jinwoo. First, she learned that Choi Dong-in was assigned to investigate him after finishing the dungeon. Also, the association was hiding his data, which confirmed that this young man was special, especially since he had that amazing scent that day. After Jinwoo went to work, everyone was happy to greet him and help him. This reminded him of the scene from before, so he laughed because he was in a good mood. When he entered the dungeon, Jinwoo started to work very fast. This gave the whole team a break. Next, they waited for the A-level team to leave. Then, a man named Sun Ki-hun came and asked to borrow someone to help transport supplies because his team was shorthanded. The others were scared to enter the A-class gate, but Jinwoo volunteered because he wanted to go. Everyone tried to stop him, but they couldn't because the young man also wanted to go. His team was much bigger than yesterday's, with 6 A-rank hunters and 3 B-rank hunters. Even without S-rank hunters, this was a strong team compared to other guilds, so everyone was confident. They entered because this gate was considered weaker than their father's team's usual challenges. Inside, Jinwoo felt less magical energy than in other dungeons, and he suddenly felt very uneasy. A girl in the team talked to him to ease the tension. She said the other hunters were very strong, so as long as they were careful, everything would be fine. Ki-hun really wanted to complete the raid. This would officially prove his team's strength. They sensed the enemy and were ready to fight without any orders, which surprised Jinwoo. This team was full of skilled people. Their opponents weren't just ordinary wolves. Everyone worked together to defeat them. The confusing part was why these creatures were here. They were only C-rank, and this was an A-rank gate. Jinwoo realized they were wearing collars, meaning they were raised by someone to work. His bad feeling was right. Suddenly, a B rank and two large creatures appeared. One threw a spear at the captain, who blocked it, but the throw was very powerful. The hunters fought fiercely, but they were at a disadvantage. Their skills were almost useless against these creatures. Their bodies were immune to magic. The mage tried to hold one creature with magic, but it only slowed it down for a few seconds. Their teammates needed time to recover. They sent out two fire warriors, but even these powerful attacks were blocked by one monster. The martial artist on the team was also strong, but there were too many enemies. Jinwoo saw the situation was getting dangerous. They had already lost two strong B-rank hunters. One person's arm was cut off, but he healed quickly. The healer was targeted. This couldn't help Jinwoo to enter the battle, so he used stealth to weaken the monsters. Healer was shocked to see the monsters get their heads ripped off. He didn't want to get involved directly, but he weakened the monsters to help the hunters. Duong saw the creatures acting strangely and asked what was happening. Jinwoo skillfully remained hidden and helped the hunters win. Luckily, no one was seriously injured. The girl who had recovered talked about the strange things that happened during the fight. The captain asked the strong girl if she had done something unusual, but she denied it. She could only use attack magic and a few other spells. The other members also said they didn't do it. Only the girl in black knew who was responsible. Jinwoo secretly used a skill to hide their team members, but no one appeared in the stealth system, so she couldn't tell who the mysterious E-rank hunter was. The hunter saved the day, so she said, no matter the reason, the win is still a win. This made everyone change their minds and stop investigating further, considering it a blessing. She felt like Jinwoo was leading everyone, but she knew he had his reasons, so she didn't question him. Some people asked the captain if they should continue because it was too dangerous. They thought it would take 2 or 3 more hunters. Everyone knew this was important to Ki-hun, but safety came first. He hesitated, making Jinwoo realize this man wasn't willing to give up. Ki-hun was wise and not greedy. He agreed to have the whole team retreat and find another way. Later, everyone was relieved because they would have died if forced to continue. He said he wasn't stupid. Putting people in danger for an important goal was pointless if they lost their lives. However, when they tried to leave the gate, they found it was locked by a powerful barrier. Even their strongest magicians couldn't break it. She secretly thought it was lucky they decided to retreat. If they had continued, they would have been killed by this powerful magic user. Suddenly, a terrifying magical power threatened them all. Even a B-rank hunter could feel it, but the people outside didn't react immediately. Someone was cursed while trying to remove the barrier and turned back. To their shock, a whole army of monstrous orc creatures was waiting for them, all heavily armed. Their leader also arrived, so Ki-hun had to greet him. They knew they couldn't fight and win, so talking was the best option. The other side was sent by the dungeon boss to deliver a message. They introduced themselves as Kago and asked to meet everyone. Ki-hun asked if they had blocked the escape route, confirming his suspicion. Kago said yes, he blocked and cursed it. He then laughed. They had 2 choices: be killed by his soldiers or meet the boss. The captain chose to compromise, so everyone agreed to follow them. Ki-hun sent his condolences for Jinwoo. He said that as soon as they see the boss, everyone should attack. Jinwoo should escape while they fight with the boss. He wouldn't be able to maintain the barrier while fighting. The main team asked if they were going to die. Everyone was willing to die. Their goal wasn't to survive and return, but to close the gate. He realized this team was different from the one he met before in the double dungeon. The girl from before asked Jinwoo to leave a will for her family and to fulfill her mission until her last breath, but she wanted him to live and return to the outside world. Cha-hae went to find Jinwoo, but couldn't find him anywhere. The uncle from the mining company asked why she was there because it was her day off. She wanted to know where the E-rank hunter was. He told her that Jinwoo had entered the dungeon to transport supplies. At this time, the A-rank party had entered Kargilgon's residence. There were thousands of soldiers here, and they couldn't defeat them all. Kargilgon greeted them, saying, "Finally, they're here."
Hey there, darling. I know this is a new channel, but I really need your support. So please hit that subscribe button. It's just like joining a squad, and trust me, you don't want to miss out on all the fun. So come on, darling. Let's dive into more epic recaps together. Once again, please subscribe.